pretty common knowledge these days in the ST market. The best way to get rid of wheel hop is to replace the rear motor mount. That works for both the Focus and the Fiesta ST. In the case of the Focus, Ford even realized this was a problem and started putting the heavier duty Focus electric mount in the 14s and also using it for TSBs. That's a popular aftermarket, so much we actually put it on our Focus project car a few months back. While the mount does a good job, we're looking for something a little more heavy duty with the performance we're adding to the car, so today we're going to remove that and replace it with the CPE 2-piece xFlex mount. The CPE xFlex is unique in that it's actually a 2-piece mount. Most aftermarket mounts, including the electric Focus mount, they replace just this part right here. Your factory bushing will be located here. Most people replace that with either a heavy-duty polyurethane or a heavier-duty rubber bushing. CPE actually moves the bushing out of this into the upper bracket. They use their EPDM rubber, which is going to be heavy-duty, not have temperature problems like some of their polyurethanes will, but also be much stronger than the factory rubber bushing. The CPE is a direct replacement for your factory mount and bracket and comes with all necessary hardware for installation. For this installation, you'll need a lift or a jack and jack stands, 1/2-inch torque wrench, 3/8 wrench, 19mm 1/2-inch socket, 15mm 1/2-inch socket, 15mm 3/8 socket, 13mm 3/8 socket, 10-inch extension, 15mm open-end wrench, 13mm open-end wrench, and a 10mm Allen wrench. You want to start by getting your Focus up in the air and removing the front cover. Once you do that, you can locate the factory mount here. To begin the installation, we have to remove the bracket, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an extra nut hiding behind the back. Be careful with these. Once you remove the nut and washer, the sleeve, and then when you take the last one off, the whole piece will come down with it. Now we're going to remove the bolt that goes from the mount to the bracket. This lower bolt here, this will actually remove the motor mount from the chassis. Next we can remove the bracket. You want to slide the motor mount back, give yourself a little more room. One nut here, and one underneath here. Here you can see the CPE xFlex next to the factory mount. Again, notice the factory mount uses rubber in here, where the CPE makes this solid, puts the bushing up in here, change the geometry a little bit, should make it a lot stronger, a lot less prone to wheel hop. You want to set up to mimic the factory mount before we install it. There's two different sides of this. You see the one side is indent, one side isn't. You want to make sure the CPE logo is actually facing down. The bolt will go through where it flush mounts on the other side. Then we'll hand tighten the nut and we'll put it up into the car. The bracket up into place with our mount. Set it roughly where it's going to go. The other three locations will use stock hardware, but the one closest to the driver's side, you want to use a supplied bolt washer. We're not going to tighten anything down yet until we're closer to done, so you just want to get it in as far as you can thread it in by hand. Now grab one of the factory bolts for the rear. Like I said before, hand tight on everything for now. And now the motor mount bolt. Make sure you have this lined up properly. You may want to pull on the engine just a little bit to line it up. We'll thread into place. And now the factory stock bolt for the front. Careful not to cross thread anything when you're lining these up. If you can't turn it in by hand, you probably have it cross threaded. Now we're going to go through and tighten these up, starting with the driver's side, then the top, and then the front. And now the downpipe bracket can go back on. It can be a little tricky. You sort of have to put everything up into place kind of at the same time. Now we can tighten everything down on the bracket. Now we can move on to tightening the bolt between the bracket and the mount. You're going to torque this to 80 foot-pound. The last step is the bolt to the chassis. Again, 80 foot-pound on this as well. Reinstall the cover and your installation is finished. Now we're going to try out our CPE xFlex mount. Should say when you start the car and you rev it a little bit, there's a slight more vibration than there was before. It's a much beefier mount, that's to be expected. Definitely nothing you couldn't live with. Now let's see how it works.